Have you ever stood at the highest peak of your life, only to realize the person pushing you off the cliff was your own parent? On the day I was meant to be honored as the valedictorian of the University of Georgia, my father didn't give me flowers. He gave me a financial death sentence. He didn't use his fists. He used humiliation. As the microphone stayed live and the entire stadium held its breath, he leaned into my ear and whispered, "You think this gown makes you better than us? Get down now, before I strip the truth of who you are in front of everyone." Hi, everyone. I'm Elena. I'm 24 years old. Today, I want to tell you a story about betrayal, silent debts, and how one girl flipped the script when she was backed into a corner. This story is a creative work by Revenge Pulse, crafted for educational and inspirational purposes. All characters and events are fictional, designed to convey the complexities of family dynamics and the strength of the human spirit. The murmur in Sanford Stadium felt like a violent wave. Elena Vance, stood at the podium, a position every student dreamed of, but a cold shiver ran down my spine. In the front row, my father, Robert Vance, watched me with the eyes of a predator, checking his watch with a radiating impatience. "Elena, enough of this charade," he barked, his voice cutting through the stadium speakers. "Keep it short. Don't embarrass us with your pretentiousness." Pretentiousness. I had worked 3 jobs to pay for every textbook. I whispered, "Dad, I worked so hard, for you worked hard for your own cheap ego." Robert stood abruptly, ignoring the crowd. "You think this degree lets you stand above your parents? Get down, now." My mother, Martha, rose as well, her face as cold as a stone statue. "Elena, stop being dramatic. Come down so we can celebrate for Leo." Leo, my brother, sat silently, staring at the brand new phone my father bought him using the money that was supposed to be my college fund. Robert pushed past the metal barrier, grabbing my wrist so tight the bone ached. A security guard stepped forward, but my father glared him down. "This is my daughter. I have every right to discipline her." He leaned into the microphone, ensuring the entire stadium heard his snarl. "You are nothing without the Vance name. You are a burden, a selfish girl, while your brother sacrificed everything." A collective gasp swept the stands. Hundreds of phones were raised. The live stream was running. "Leo is the one worth celebrating. You're just a girl drowning in debt," he hissed. Those words hurt more than a slap. He was talking about the debts he had forced me to co-sign to prop up his failing business. Below us, Martha crossed her arms. "Elena, stop shaming us. Listen to your father." Security finally pulled Robert away as he shouted my name like a curse. Martha followed, complaining about educating a rebellious child. I stood alone under the harsh lights, the microphone humming with static. Someone whispered, "Poor girl." I gripped the podium until my knuckles turned white, looked directly into the camera, and said, "If you have ever fought alone in the dark, while the people meant to hold the light were blowing it out, stay with me, because my story and yours will not end in their silence." For the first time, the world listened. My war had only just begun. The stadium noise faded, but the voice in my head remained cold, calculating, and sounding exactly like my father's. "Learn your place. Elena, a daughter is a reflection of her father's success, not an individual." I learned early, at 8. I stood alone after my first ballet recital, clutching a bouquet I'd bought with saved lunch money. As the janitor began stacking chairs, he asked, "Sweetheart, are they coming?" I whispered. They forgot. The most haunting part. It felt normal. At 16, the disparity became a physical wall. My brother, Leo, was gifted a brand new truck. When I asked to learn to drive, Dad didn't look up from the TV. Girls get distracted. Leo needs the opportunity to build his image. You can walk. It builds character. From the kitchen, Martha added, "Your brother carries the Vance name. Elena. Let him focus. I learned to walk everywhere, literally and metaphorically. At 17, I collapsed during a double shift at a diner. No one came to the hospital. I stared at the door for 6 hours before using tips I'd hidden in my coat lining money I'd kept secret so my father wouldn't borrow it to pay the bill. When I got home, Martha frowned at my discharge papers. We can't afford your dramatic episodes. Your father's business is struggling. Robert waved me off. Leo is applying to Ivy Leagues. We have to prioritize his future. Leo just looked at me with a pity that felt like a slap. Just stay quiet, Elle. I spent 24 years shrinking, needing less, and apologizing for breathing. By graduation, silence wasn't peace, it was a cage. A faculty door swung open, and Professor Alvarez hurried over, her heels clicking in a sharp, panicked rhythm. She was the only one who knew I had been working 40 hours a week while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. "Elena, come here," she said, guiding me into a quiet hallway. Her hands were gentle, but her eyes were fierce. "Let me see your face. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," I murmured, though my wrist where Robert's fingers had clamped was already beginning to bruise. "No, you are not," she insisted. "Your father just humiliated you in front of the entire state." "Elena, that wasn't parenting. That was an ambush." I swallowed hard, the bile rising in my throat. "He said I would embarrass him. He always says I'm the reason things go wrong." Professor Alvarez softened. "Listen to me. What happened wasn't discipline. It was a desperate man trying to keep control over something he no longer owns. You." The word owns landed heavy. Outside, the chaos was muffled security discussing the incident, students shouting about the viral clip. I could hear my father's distant voice, still arguing that the police had no right to touch him. "You don't have to go back to them." "Elena," Alvarez whispered, "not today. Not ever." "I'm not," I said, for the first time. My voice didn't shake. "I am done being the ghost in their house." She handed me my bag. "Take the exit by the lab. Avoid the cameras. Take whatever step feels safest." I walked out alone, my diploma in one hand and my dignity in the other. I didn't call a ride. I just walked. Each step no longer felt like a burden carried for my family. Each step belonged entirely to me. I was 24, a valedictorian, and finally, terrifyingly, on my own. The next morning, the skin on my wrist was a dull purple, a silent map of my father's discipline. I kept my head down as I walked across campus, students whispering as I passed. Their sympathy felt like a weight I couldn't carry. Inside the financial services office, the air smelled of stale coffee. I approached the counter, my voice steadying. "I need a printed breakdown of every tuition payment made on my behalf. All 4 years. Every source." The clerk's eyes softened as she recognized my face from the viral video. "Give me a moment, sweetheart." As the printer hummed, my heart hammered against my ribs. She slid the pages toward me like they were made of glass. I read each line, the numbers snapping into sharp focus. Total cost, $142,600. My breath hitched. Scholarships, $94,000. Research stipends, $22,000. Campus employment, $33,500. Then, the final line, family contributions, 0. The clerk leaned in. "Sometimes families fall on hard times." "Elena, it doesn't mean they don't love you. They told the world they sacrificed their retirement for this," I whispered. "They told my brother I was stealing his future." I walked into the blinding Georgia sun, clutching the truth. I remembered scrubbing cafeteria grease until midnight and the early mornings in the biology lab that barely covered my rent. I had built this life with my own blood and sweat. My family had not contributed a cent, yet they wore my success like a trophy they had bought. They told me I owed them everything. The truth was, I owed them nothing at all. Back at my apartment, the silence clicked into place like a puzzle piece. I spread the tuition records across the table, but something was still missing. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick cream envelope my father had forced on me 6 months ago. "Sign this, Elena," he'd said, barely looking up from his coffee. "A responsible daughter helps her family protect their assets. It's for your future." I had signed it just to end the fighting. Now, reading the fine print, the room began to spin. It wasn't an insurance document. It was a co-signer agreement for a $50,000 business loan Robert Vance had taken out in my name to bail out his failing firm. He hadn't just refused to pay for my school. He had stolen my credit score to fund his own incompetence. "Oh, God," I whispered, my hands shaking. My neighbor, Mrs. Corbin, peered in with muffins. She saw the papers and gasped. "Elena, you look like you've seen a ghost. I'm looking at a crime." "Mrs. Corbin," I said. They put their debt on my shoulders before I even had a chance to start my life. 2 hours later, a sharp attorney in a gray suit tapped the document. "This is predatory. Because you were a student, and he's your father. We can file for a rescission of contract based on undue influence and fraud. I don't want his money," I told him, my voice like iron. "I just want his debt off my life." The lawyer smiled thinly. "We'll alert the bank. They'll freeze his business accounts immediately to investigate. He'll have to answer for every cent." Walking out, the weight in my chest changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was finality. They thought I was their safety net. They were about to find out I was the wall they were going to crash into. By the next morning, my phone had become a live wire. Every few seconds, it buzzed with a new layer of noise. A classmate's text flashed Elena. "The live stream hit 2 million views. Reddit is hunting for your dad's business info. Are you okay?" I turned the sound off, but the screen kept bleeding light. News outlets, campus blogs, strangers tagging me with words like brave and heartbreaking. Mrs. Corbin knocked again, her face a mix of worry and pride. "Sweet girl, your story is everywhere. People are calling for your father to be barred from campus." "I didn't post anything," I replied, my voice sounding distant. "You didn't have to. The world saw the truth." She hesitated. "Are you safe from them?" "I'm not going back," I said. "I've already changed the locks." When I finally checked my professional email, one subject line made my heart stop. From Dr. Serena Knox. Subject opportunity at Helios Data Labs. "Elena, I watched your senior research presentation last month. Your work shows a rare clarity. What happened at graduation was a tragedy, but your composure proved something vital about the kind of leader you are. Helios in Austin is opening a fellowship. It's yours. No interviews required. We know exactly who you are." I whispered the words, needing them to be real. A fellowship. Mine, a DM, appeared from a stranger. "Your courage made me realize my parents don't own my future either." "Keep going." I closed my eyes, overwhelmed. For the first time in 24 years, someone saw my value without trying to put a price tag on it. I returned to the university late that night, long after the shouting headlines had quieted. Sanford Stadium loomed in the dark like a sleeping beast. I walked past it toward the small, empty auditorium where our rehearsals had taken place. The door was unlocked a mistake by the janitorial staff that felt like a gift from the universe. My name was still taped to the lectern Elena Vance, Valedictorian. I touched the card, then set my phone on a chair and hit record. I didn't need a crowd. I just needed the truth to exist in the air. My parents said I would embarrass them. I began, my voice echoing in the hollow room. But the truth is, they were terrified I would outgrow the version of me they could control. The words came with a sharpness I hadn't known I possessed. For 4 years, they told the world they sacrificed everything for my education. That was a lie. I held up the financial office printout, $142,600. That is the cost of my freedom, and I paid every cent while they used my name to hide their failures. I lifted the fraudulent loan document, the one my father tricked me into signing. My father said a responsible daughter prepares for her family's future. What he meant was that a compliant daughter should never ask questions. I fed the paper into a small portable shredder. The mechanical hum filled the room as the blades swallowed the signature I'd given out of fear. I am not destroying their future, I said softly to the camera. I am finally protecting my own. I ended the recording and stood in the silence. The ghost of the graduation ambush finally fading. Outside, 2 students sitting on the steps looked up, recognizing me. One whispered, "Elena, thank you. Not for the drama, but for saying the words they were still too afraid to whisper." My first week at Helios Data Labs in Austin felt like a dream. No one compared me to Leo. No one demanded I shrink. I was in a research meeting when a message flashed from the front desk. "Your parents are at the gate. We haven't let them in." My stomach tightened, but I didn't tremble. Robert and Martha stood outside the glass doors, framed by the harsh Texas sun. The moment I stepped out, Robert snapped, "Elena, call the bank. They've frozen my business credit because of your fraud report." I stayed behind the security perimeter. "Good morning to you, too." "This isn't a game," he growled, his face turning a dangerous red. "That loan was for the family. You're destroying my reputation." "No," I corrected him. "I'm protecting my life. You used my identity to fund a failing business without my consent. That's a felony." "Robert." Martha wrung her hands. "Elena, sweetheart, you're overreacting. Your father has always provided for us." I held up the tuition breakdown. "I provided for myself. You spent my college fund on Leo's cars and club memberships. I was just your financial backup plan. We raised you." Robert scoffed. "That should be enough for loyalty." "You raised Leo," I said quietly. "I raised myself." I handed a folder through the security slot. "This is a formal cease and desist. Contact me again." And I pressed charges. "You taught me to be tough. Dad, I'm finally using that toughness on you." Robert scanned the legal terms. His face shifted not into guilt, but a hollow fear. The bully had finally been outmatched. "Elena, you're still our daughter." I shook my head. "I'm the woman you never thought I'd be. And she doesn't take orders from you." I watched them walk away across the parking lot. They looked smaller than I remembered. I stood steady, rooted, and finally free. 2 months passed before I heard Leo's voice again. A text flashed on my screen. "Elena, they kicked me out. They said I'm a waste of investment because I didn't get into an Ivy League. I have nowhere to go. Please." I stared at the screen. The golden child was finally being hit by the debris of the walls our parents had built. I called him. He answered on the first ring, sounding broken. "Elena," he sobbed. "Dad says you ruined the family. They told me I'm on my own until I can repay them for my upbringing. I don't know how to work. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry they turned on you, Leo," I said, "but I cannot fix what they broke in us. So, you're not letting me stay with you. I am building a life that doesn't include the Vance family trauma," I replied firmly. "I'll send you a list of shelters and job agencies. Heal yourself first, Leo, but you have to do the work." I didn't realize how bad it was until they aimed the anger at me. He whispered, "I know. Good luck, Leo." The call ended, and I felt a final release. My career at Helios took off, and I eventually established the Vance Resilience Scholarship, a grant for women escaping financial and emotional coercion. Recently, I returned to Georgia. I stood on the spot in the stadium where my father had tried to humiliate me, and I smiled. "They broke the girl I was," I whispered, "but the woman I became survived because of it." If you are listening to this right now, if you have ever been pushed down by those meant to lift you up, know this. Their words are not your destiny. Your value is not defined by their approval. Stay with me. Share your story in the comments. We rise louder, together. I walked toward a future that finally, beautifully, belonged to me. Before I go, I want to leave you with a thought. Think of your life like a stained glass window. For years, I let my parents hold the frame. I let them choose the colors mostly dull, dark, and shaded by their own failures. When they struck me, when they tried to shatter me, they thought they were destroying the glass. But here is the truth they didn't know. A window is only a window when it lets the light through. When it breaks, the shards don't just disappear. They become sharp. They become tools. They can be rearranged into something far more intricate and resilient than the original. If you are listening to this and you feel like you are standing in a pile of broken glass, remember, you are the artist, not the victim of the break. You have the power to pick up those pieces and build a mosaic that no one else can claim. Don't let the people who broke you tell you that you are no longer whole. You are simply being reshaped for a masterpiece they will never be able to afford. What color is your window today? Share your story in the comments. Tell us where you are listening from and what piece of your past you are finally letting go of. Every comment, every like, and every share is a signal to someone else out there that they don't have to stay in the dark. Subscribe to join our community of survivors and thrivers. Let's rise louder, together. I'm Elena, and this is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next story.